Wild camping is a wonderful way to get out amongst nature. It's also a wonderful way to see different parts of the world at different hours of the day and in different lighting conditions that you normally wouldn't be able to see during a standard out and back walk. I've been blessed to spend lots of time camping in various parts of the UK, and spoiler alert, some of the times I've spent in Scotland have been as close to perfect as I could ever imagine. Camping right on the edge of the sea, camping on the edge of lochs, camping in the shadow of lighthouses. It's an incredible experience up there, and my goodness me, I hope to be going there again very soon. At this point, it's probably worth saying that there are, of course, a lot of rules and regulations surrounding this sort of stuff, so please don't go out there thinking you've got a right to pitch a tent in the middle of somebody's driveway, for example. But the rules and regulations are worth an entire video of their own accord, so this video is more about the practicalities and the experience and some tips for being out there wherever you've pitched up. Oh, look at you, you're a lovely lad, aren't you? Okay, so let's briefly discuss tents. Now, you can see here I've got small, medium and large, or as they actually are, very small tent, what people consider a small tent, and your classic tent you'd see on a campsite. So this is my proper one-man trekker tent. I bought it randomly from Amazon a couple of years back and it's still going strong. And before that, because most of the camping I'd done had been based on driving from location to location around Scotland. Oh, can you get comfy there, lads? I'm sorry, I'm annoying, aren't I? So because of that, I had a two-man tent, which, as you can see, even though this is a small tunnel tent, just about big enough for two adults, I'd say, when you compare it to my proper backpacking tent, it's a lot bigger and it's significantly heavier. So whereas I thought, wow, what a small tent, I wouldn't want to get cozier than this. My goodness me, did it get cozier than this? Oh, we've lost Gizmo. He's going in the window to shout at goodness knows who going past. And of course, just for reference, you wouldn't be taking this up into the mountains. But this is a standard sort of campsite tent, I'd say. 3-man size and with a big porch section as well. So again, you can see that's ludicrously big and heavy compared to the trekker tent. And of course, it's not just about the weight and the size as an isolated thing. It's about the weight and the size when you're getting it into a backpack. Now, of course, this bag is a very big bag. At the minute, it's just got a sleeping bag in the bottom. But you can imagine if you're using these old style camping rolls, that's going to be another cumbersome addition to the back of the bag or inside the bag. So when you start adding a tent, a sleeping bag and camping mat, the space and the weight can soon... Space can decrease rapidly, the weight can increase rapidly. So being sensible in your decisions, especially, as I say, if you're not driving out and camping out in the wild, close proximity to the car, don't be thinking about taking anything big and bulky. Get a nice, small, simple, light tent. I just want to make it absolutely clear at this point that I personally think one of the most important elements of wild camping is safety. And of course, one of the most important parts of safety is making sure that somebody knows where you're going and where you are. I know that in this day and age we have things like phones and watches that have GPS trackers in them. However, if you're out for an extended period of time, you can't guarantee that you're always going to have charge in these devices, and you also can't guarantee that the rain and damp won't get in your power bank to recharge them. So if you can give somebody not only a general idea of where you're camping, but of the entire routes that you're planning to follow, it will, at the very least, give maybe your family and friends more peace of mind, even if you're out having the time of your life. Okay, I fetched you down into a really cold field because I want to talk about ambient noise and the part that that plays in the wild camping experience. It's something that if you've not been out camping in the wild or in a tent at all, you might not have thought about. And right now I'd say there's the tiniest breath of wind in the air, but barely anything. So if we were in a tent right now, it would be basically silent and all you'd have is the ambient noise. Whereas with a gentle breeze and above, you start to get the crinkling of the tent itself, which when that is noise generated about 1 to 2 feet away from your ears, is all consuming. And in anything like a strong wind or even a stiff breeze, you won't hear anything going on outside of that tent. And there's a couple of psychological things that are at play with this. Firstly, some people will love that because they can't hear little rustles and footsteps and maybe bugs crawling on the tent because of the wind rustling the tent itself. Other people might be thinking, oh, I wish I could hear what's going on out there. And it's something that I think you just have to settle yourself to accept and deal with in your own way. I'd say for me, I feel like I want to hear footsteps approaching the campsite, but for the sake of a good night's sleep, it's probably best for me if I can't and there's a little bit of wind rustling the tent around my head. This is probably also a good moment to talk about one of the items I think is essential for practical and safety reasons, and that is a good torch. Now, I'm a huge fan of head torches because, of course, having a light strapped to your head means you've got both hands free, whether you're just doing stuff around the campsite or whether you're out traversing the environment. Of course, I'd advise as little travel as possible in the dark, but if you have to do so, then having a head torch so that you've got both of your hands for balance and manipulating objects around you is definitely a bonus. But I'd also say that having a proper spotlight style torch or flashlight is very handy as well. Even if this sounds a little bit paranoid, I can say that I definitely feel a little bit more secure and safe if I hear strange noises off in the distance, knowing that I've got a good torch that I can point in the direction and get a good beam of light going maybe a few hundred meters across a hilltop or into the deep dark woods. But as I say, perhaps I'm just a little bit paranoid. To round out this video, we're going to have some rapid fire thoughts, so here goes. Firstly, depending on the environmental conditions, you might find, even if it's dry, you end up with a lot of damp in the tent and a lot of dew on the ground. And I'd say there's not much you can do about this, unfortunately, other than maybe take a small microfiber cloth or towel so that you can try and wipe off the worst of the damp from the tent before you wrap it up and put it back in your bag. And of course then you can leave the towel on the back of your backpack to dry out as you're walking. Just a little tip there, may be useful. Also, if you are caught out in very bad conditions, you might end up pitching your tent really early compared to what you want to do and find yourself for hours and hours sheltering from the elements outside in a tiny tent. Of course, you might not have phone signal. You might find yourself struggling for battery charge depending on how long you're out and about for. So it's always worth taking something like a pen and a notepad or even an actual book to read. Analog entertainment that you can spend hours doing while you're trapped in your tent with the wild world outside trying to get in and hopefully not succeeding. Well, this is a weird camera angle. I don't think it's lined up straight in second thoughts. Too late now. I'd like to finally reiterate once again the importance about considering the weight in your backpack. You might already be a walker and do hills like I was before I got into wild camping and think, well, I'm fit enough, I do these sort of routes all the time. But my goodness me, when I added 10 kilograms plus to my backpack, I didn't feel quite so confident, clever, young or fit as I once did. Partly because I'm not any of those things anymore. Oh, but on a serious note, if the wind isn't drowning out my voice as I shout towards this camera here, I do think it's well worth, once in a while, if you've got a big trip or a big camping trip planned out, to just load up your backpack with the sort of things that you think you'd need, put it on, and then just walk a few miles around your local country lanes or town or village, wherever you happen to be, just to see what it feels like to add that sort of weight onto the nice, easy to tread, flat tarmac surfaces. And then just consider maybe 10 miles into a 2-day walk, you might have all that weight on your back and then find yourself faced with, I don't know, a mile of boggy, marshy, wet land to cross and wade through because it's rained recently and you didn't realise how wet it was going to be. And suddenly that 10 kilograms plus on your back might feel an awful lot more, and those miles and days ahead of you might get ever more distant in the back of your mind. I'm trying to say it dramatically, you know what I'm saying. Be careful, be sensible, and most of all, have fun and don't camp in somebody's driveway. Until the next time, my friends, keep it interesting, check the links in the description, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.